Is everybody familiar with Moss Bros? Yes, general nodding. Thanks, Jamie. So Moss Bros is the UK's leading menswear, formal wear retailer. We've been around for a little while. It started in 1851 by a guy called Moses Moss, just up the road actually, in Covent Garden. This is the original store. And his philosophy was really simple: sell only the best stuff, give only the best service. And I think that's pretty much nails what all of us are trying to do. And he passed the business on to his two sons, Alfred and George, and Moss became Moss Bros. And in 1897, Alfred lent a suit to an acquaintance of his, a guy called Charles Pond. This is not actually Charles Pond. I couldn't find a photo of him anywhere. But he was a professional pianist. And he only had limited demand for his work. But he needed a white tie tails suit for the concerts that he did get booked to play. And so Alfred agreed to loan him a suit for the princely sum of 7 and 6pence, and I don't really even know what that means. I don't know how much that is, but that was enough to cover the loan fee and cover the costs of cleaning. And Moss Hire was born, and that's probably the part of the business that we are best known for. So I think it's fair to say that Moss Bros is clearly a disruptor. It was a paradigm shift in the men's suiting market. Maybe if this story was happening today, 120 years later, we would talk about it as being the Uberization of the white tie market. We'd probably hail Alfred as being a genius for taking a colossally underutilized fixed asset like white ties and generating returns from those idle assets. He'd probably be in Silicon Valley right now talking to Sequoia Capital about a globalization towards a $1 billion IPO, or maybe not. As it is, we are a little bit more modest than that as a business. This is what you probably more know us for. We have 130 stores in the UK and Ireland. We have some concessions in the Middle East, and we sell online here in the UK and throughout the world. We've dedicated sites in the US, Australia, and a dedicated international site where we sell to about 100 different countries in local currencies. We sell on other people's platforms throughout the world as well. But we are predominantly a retail business. Hire accounts for about 10% of our business turnover. But hire is really important to us, and it always has been since that first hire in 1897. And the reason it's important to us is because it gets customers into Moss Bros that would not have otherwise considered the brand. So whether it's somebody who urgently requires a tuxedo for an event, I don't want to make too many kind of gender-based generalizations about guys leaving things to the last minute, but guys do generally leave things to the last minute, and Moss Bros is there on the high street and able to get guys sorted with a tuxedo, or alternatively, it's a friend who's getting married, and he decides that the wedding suits are going to come from Moss Bros, and that forces people to engage with the brand, to visit the store to get measured, or to go online to arrange where they're going to have their suit delivered to. And that's very often the first introduction to the brand for a lot of people, who then realise the range of product that we sell, the service that we provide, and they very often go on to become retail customers. So hire is the gateway drug to Moss retail for a lot of people. And since that first hire in 1897, we guesstimate that Moss Bros has outfitted the groom's party for about 5 million weddings in the UK. Just a little bit about me. I started my career in digital in 1997, so a nice, just over 20 years ago, and I was working on a team responsible for these things. Does everybody know what these are? There's a few young-looking faces in the room who might not actually know what they are. So I was working for an internet company, an ISP called Global Internet, and we were responsible for designing these sign-up CDs. So for anybody that doesn't know, to connect to the internet, you needed a computer, a modem, and one of these CDs that contained some software, including a web browser. So this was before Microsoft had decided to start breaking the law and bundling Internet Explorer into their operating system. And the instructions for your modem, how to connect to the server, and a sign-up process, which looks very, very similar to the sort of checkout process that most of us will have on our e-commerce sites today. We used to measure conversion rate in a very, very detailed way. We would take the number of sign-ups that we'd had that month and divide it by the number of CDs that we'd sent out. So we've come a long, long way in terms of how we do things, how we measure the effectiveness of what we're doing since those days. So 20-odd years ago, Larry and Sergey were still at Stanford. They were working on their research project that analysed the relationships amongst websites, and the internet looked like this. It probably didn't look like this, actually. It probably looked like the top third of this, and the rest was blank, and you were waiting for it still to load. The internet was essentially rubbish at that time. So how did we get from there to where we are today, where we've got the totality of human intelligence and endeavour is a couple of seconds away in all of our pockets? It's an absolutely incredible transformation over a relatively short time horizon. And what should we be looking forward to over a similar time horizon? Well, I think the first thing I would say on that is that the rate of technological change is increasing exponentially. So what we've seen over the last 20 years is probably we'd like to see as much change again over the next 4 or 5 years. We all know Moore's law. Okay, so the pace of development that we have seen, I think, is directly correlated to Moore's law. The computing power increasing exponentially. The number of transistors on an integrated circuit doubles every 2 years. It's more or less held since 1975 when he first made that pronouncement, and it's likely to continue for some time to come. So since those first days when I was working on those sign-up CDs, we've seen about a 1,000,000-fold increase in the price performance of computing power since when we were using Alta Vista or Ask Jeeves or whatever your search engine of choice was back then. And that's what's driven, in large part, the pace of technological change that we've seen. And if that's going to replicate, if we're going to see that level of change again over a much shorter time period, what are we going to do with it all? So there's a futurologist called Ray Kurzweil. I don't know if anybody's heard of him. So he's predicted that by 2045 we'll have expanded the intelligence of our human-machine civilization 1 billion-fold. And he describes it as a technological singularity. It's a point beyond which our imaginations cannot even go. I personally have a point which is probably about the end of the next financial year, which is where my imagination can't simply go beyond. And we can sometimes get a little bit bogged down in the art of what might be possible. So how do we try and manage these things at Moss Bros? So we have a digital vision. It's a vision of a target customer, or a target customer experience, I should say. So, put quite simply, our demographic is men. We sell our own brand suits, skinny fit, very fashion forward suits. We sell workaday suits. We sell our own brands, and we sell other brands like Hugo Boss and DKNY and so on. We've got everything from £100 to well in excess of £1,000. We have a product line which is there for young and old alike, and we're just very focused on selling suits. So our digital vision that keeps us grounded and keeps us focused is of an imaginary store experience from some time long ago, where our imaginary customer returns to Moss Bros over the course of his lifetime. So first suit as a young man, then work suit, maybe a suit that he gets married in, and he's always returning to the same store, and miraculously the same store manager continues to work there throughout this time, and he gets to know that customer, and he gets to understand him, and he knows what fit suits him. He knows what size he is. He knows what price point he's prepared to pay. He knows what he bought last time he was in the store, and so on. And whilst that's clearly a notional halcyon vision that describes an ideal which has probably never reflected the reality for any one customer who's always been to the same suit store and always bought from the same person. Clearly that's never going to have happened, although we do have some store staff that have been with the business over 40 years, so maybe it's not that far from reality. But it doesn't matter. It's a heuristic for us to work to, a vision that we can aspire to when we're looking at providing personalised cross-channel experiences, and keep ourselves grounded in something that's actually deliverable and is not too kind of esoteric and technologically advanced for us to get our relatively small minds around. So why is that important? Well, I said the first thing is to do with recognition. You know, why does it feel so great when we're recognised when we go somewhere? If it's somebody that just welcomes us back and says it's good to see you again. My local Cafe Nero now know what coffee I like as I walk in the door because I go there every day, and that gives me a feeling of loyalty and warmth towards them as a brand, and it's why I go there every morning rather than to the Starbucks next door. So recognition matters, and it's important to us. But online, there's also the more utilitarian argument for why we should recognise customers and deliver experiences which show that we recognise who they are and what they do. And it's that "don't make me think" argument, as Steve Krug would put it. We know that any cognitive effort that we put in front of customers is going to lead to friction, and it's going to lead to customer dissatisfaction, a poorer user experience, and ultimately a weaker conversion rate, and everything feeding down to the bottom line. But we now stand on the brink of something truly amazing if we think of the computing power that's available, the data collection that we have, and the tools that allow us to deliver digital experiences. I think we really are on the brink of being able to deliver that kind of heuristic experience that I talked about, where that customer gets recognized the minute they walk into the store, and everything that they've done is remembered and can be used in the way that digital experiences are presented to those customers. So how are we tackling those sorts of things at Moss Bros? I think the first part is that cultural element, and I think we've got that pretty much nailed with that heuristic, with that digital vision, which is grounded in, I guess, that history of where the brand has come from, that personal service in the store of getting to know your customers. So from that perspective, that's something that we're all behind and we're all aiming to deliver against. Then there's the tech bit. Clearly, we need the right tools in place to be able to do all this. This is just one part of our tech stack. This is the bit that's really focused on delivering personalization on site. The full tech stack would be far too big to get on one slide, but just to call out a few of the tech partners that we work with. So at the insight layer, what are we doing to try and understand what it is that our customers are doing? Obvious things like Google Analytics, Content Square, more too, doing lots and lots of analysis, segmentation work, really helping us to understand how our customers shop with us, how they shop across channels, and giving us that insight to be able to better understand what it is our customers are doing and what it is our customers want. And then the delivery layer, as far as personalization is concerned, we have dynamic yield, I know we're here today, and that allows us to manipulate the front end and deliver a very different user experience to different customers based on all of those things that imaginary store owner, store manager would know about that returning customer over his lifetime. How valuable he is, how much he's prepared to spend, what size he is, what stage of life he's at, what event it is that he's looking to make the next purchase for. That piece of personalization tech is allowing us to start to deliver against some of those desires that we have to personalize in that way. Ametra is our direct communications platform, so that's allowing us to talk to customers through email, through SMS, and through the social channels and direct communication channels in a way which is personalized to them and recognizes all of those facts that we do know about customers and where they're likely to be within the buying cycle, their preferences, and so on. So one kind of small view of what we've got in place in terms of tech. And then what I would call the hard bit. This is most certainly not revolution or disruption. This is most certainly evolution, because this is data analysis, it's segmentation, it's customer journey mapping, it's testing and planning and looping back round again. It's iterative improvements in the way we talk to customers and the way we present our products to them. This is one very small snapshot of the planning and execution that goes into the way we talk to customers and present the website to our customers through some of the tech products that I've just shown you. I could not have imagined the technical complexity behind this just a very short time ago, literally a few years ago. So this doesn't look anything like disruption to me. This just looks like hard work and iterative progress. And then the final point that I'd make today is about user interface design. It's obviously something that's dear to my heart from going back to those sign-up CDs from when I worked for an ISP. So this is a 1977 Austin Maxi. This was my first car. It was 13 years old by the time I got it. I'm not quite that old, but I think you'll agree it's a pretty handsome-looking vehicle. It wasn't very fast, and it wasn't very reliable. The back seats did fold down flat, so you could sleep in it, so it was quite handy. And this is a Tesla Model X. I don't think anybody here is going to argue with me that that these two vehicles are different in more or less every possible conceivable way, whether it's reliability or safety or energy use. They are absolutely poles apart. They're 50 years apart, to be fair. But the one thing that really strikes me about these two images is the bit where the user, the driver, interfaces with the two cars. There's a steering wheel. There's some pedals that make it go and stop. There's some levers on the side that turn on the indicators. And this is exactly the same. It's truly remarkable how these two vehicles, at the point where the user interfaces with them, have changed so very little, almost no change at all. Even the air vents are in exactly the same place. But clearly, this is a far superior vehicle. It's totally revolutionary in almost every possible way. I still prefer the seats on the Maxi, to be honest, to the one on the Tesla. I think that tan is really rather impressive. I don't own the car anymore, I'm afraid. So what's the point I'm getting at here? I suppose it's really just that for all the revolution that's going on, for all of the enabling work that the technology is allowing us to do, we're very, very careful as a business about changing the way that customers interface with us, because that's the most difficult thing for customers to adapt to. So most of what we are trying to do as a business in terms of delivering digital experiences is that it requires the customer to do nothing different to what they would be expecting to do. We are the ones doing the hard work. We're the ones that are changing the engine and the way the website works, the way all of our digital products work. The customer should be expected to do nothing, to do absolutely everything that they would normally expect to do. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a view of where we are at Moss Bros and some of the things that we've been doing to deliver much smarter, much more personalised digital experiences. Thanks.